It's wild how your life can just change in an instant. I landed and I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Who I thought I wanted to become was no longer in the realm of possibility. I grew so much from being so uncomfortable. Having to redirect your life is not a failure. It's an opportunity to succeed in a different way. You guys just learned like my deepest, darkest secrets and everything about me, which was kind of scary. What is up, runner gang? Welcome back to Post Run High. This is my first semi-solo episode of 2025. And I say semi-solo episode because we filmed this conversation in 2 parts. Currently, I'm sitting here in my office in Brooklyn, New York. But 3 weeks ago, I was in Joshua Tree, California with my fiancé. And he had the idea of doing a reverse interview on me where we do a deep dive into my life and kind of unpack all the things that make me me and make me who I am today. On top of that, at the end of this episode, Jeremy is going to sit back down with me here in New York and we are going to go over some takeaways from the episode and any key learnings that I think can apply to your guys' life. Without further ado, please make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. Your support means the world to me. And also follow me across social media, Instagram and TikTok at Mackz. Let's get into the full story of me. So for context, Jeremy and I are currently in Joshua Tree, California. We come here every year over the holidays, and it's actually where we got engaged last year. So it's a very special place to us, and we did go for a 4-mile run. Got to keep it authentic, guys. It's called Post Run High for a reason.
Elevation here is no joke.
Yeah.
The air is thin. Maybe am I out of shape? It was tough. Keeping up with Kate today was a struggle.
I think Jeremy always asks me after a run, he's like, how are you feeling? Was that hard for you? And I feel like you forget that I literally do this every single day for a job. So it's like
I'm quite aware of what you do for a living.
So my stamina is there, but I do have to say today was kind of hard. I was definitely breathing heavy and it was so cold outside. I feel like whenever I'm running in cold weather, I just feel it more in my lungs.
We're at Walmart yesterday and Kate asked the checkout person. She's like, we're in California. Isn't it supposed to be warm here? He's like, I mean, we're in the desert. In the summer, it's really, really hot. And in the winter, it's really, really cold.
Yeah. So if you're planning a trip to Joshua Tree, just know that all year round, it's beautiful. The summer apparently is very, very hot. And the winter is chilly. It kind of feels like late fall here is the weather I would describe. Like if you're a New Yorker, which I feel like a lot of my listeners are New Yorkers, or you're in a city that gets cold in the late fall, winter, that's kind of what it feels like here in Joshua Tree.
Well, it is beautiful, and I'm so thankful to be here. We're at a house that Frank Sinatra supposedly lived in.
Which, by the way, I've been very freaked out by.
Yes, the ghost of Frank Sinatra is with us. I'm personally a big fan of the ghost. I welcome the ghost. If the ghost, wherever you are in the house, if you're listening right now, I love you. You're goated. Kate is a little bit more frightened by the ghost of Frank.
It's a very big house. I think I realized really quickly that I'm so used to apartment living that when I get into a really big house that just has all this space, I'm like a little spooked by it.
Okay, well, let's get into some things. So Kate has a lot of valuable things to share that I think would be pretty insightful to you guys. One of them is definitely not how to drive because she can't really help anybody there. But what I think would be awesome is just would love to hear kind of how you got to where you are. I mean, you're doing a podcast alongside iHeartRadio. Yeah. Your running interview show has probably gotten maybe even 1 billion views at this point. We should probably do some data on that one. Mm-hmm. But you quit your job, I guess probably about 1.5 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And you're kind of building a media company and producing shows and pushing the envelope, doing some really cool things. So Kate, walk us back. All right, you were in New Jersey.
Yeah. And
I think what would be helpful to kind of learn about what your initial motivator was and kind of tie that into running and how running is so authentic to you. Mm-hmm. But walk us back to 12 years old. What were you doing? What at that time, what was your life trajectory? And did you have some pivotal moment there that really changed things for you?
12-year-old Kate. Let's see.
I'm kind of scared of 12-year-old Kate personally.
Are you?
Maybe.
No. 12-year-old Kate was
I'll
adorable.
put my earmuffs on.
I mean, I guess I can give you the backstory on me as a person, because I haven't really done that, which is so weird. It's like, I feel like so much of my life is online.
Well, you're interviewing other people.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you do. Like, you run interview, you sit down, post run high interview.
Right. It's crazy because I feel like so much of my life is online in a sense, because I post videos almost every single day of what I'm up to during that week, you know, running with people, sitting down, talking to people now for post run high. But at the same time, you guys really don't know that much about me. And so I'm really excited for this episode because we're digging into it. I guess starting with when I was 12 years old.
Back to 12 years old.
Yeah.
We're in 6th grade.
Okay, we're in 6th
Which
grade.
middle school?
Okay, so growing up, I grew up, as I said, in a small town in New Jersey called Glen Rock, New Jersey. The whole town was a mile by a mile. I'm one of 3 kids. I have 2 brothers. They're older than me, but one of them happens to be my twin brother, Brendan, who's like one of my best friends. Love Brendan to death. He's very involved with all of the interviews that I do. He's always helping me with research. So Brendan and I and my older brother, we're all super, super close. And yeah, I grew up in a family of 5 with, 2 other siblings. And then I had my 2 parents, and we were very active kids, I would say. Like, my mom, for a majority of my early life, like, stayed at home with us, and my dad worked in the city. So like, my day-to-day growing up was, my dad would be up at probably, I think that man wakes up at like 4 a.m. and would drive into New York City and go to work. And then my mom would, take us to school. And K through 8th grade, I went to a Catholic grammar school, which I think is so strange to think about, because most of my friends went to public schools where you're in classes with or you have grades of, 300 plus people, 200 plus people. But kindergarten through 8th grade, I went to school with, I think it was like 40 kids. Maybe it was 44 as the grades, as we went up in school and more kids kind of transferred in. But K through 8th grade, I was with the same, let's call it 40 kids for that many years. And it was amazing. It was like such a blessing. I loved going to school there. And that was my life. And then outside of school, we did all the extracurricular kind of activities that kids do. And my parents really loved sports for us. We were all very active kids, and we took a liking at a young age to sports. And the main sport that I really, really liked was lacrosse. And I've talked about this before, but I come from a family of all lacrosse players, except my parents.
For context, her brothers were national champion lacrosse players in college, Division I.
Yeah.
So not just lacrosse players, but very good lacrosse players.
Oh my God, to the point where my parents are so type A, to the point where at a certain point in my grade school, let's call it 11, 12 years old, my mom would put together workouts for us to do in the backyard, practicing our stick skills, practicing ground balls, and really just playing with each other, because she knew that if they want to be great, they need to be practicing a ton, because that's what other kids were doing that really liked lacrosse, which is so funny to think about, because when I think about lacrosse, it's such a Northeast sport, and there's so many memes you can make out of lacrosse. But that was my childhood.
But you were from the Northeast.
Yeah.
You were from a lacrosse town. Your brothers played lacrosse.
Yes, I played lacrosse,
and you got good at it.
Yeah, and that was my life. By the time I was 12, I did other sports, right? Because I was at this Catholic grammar school, and I always did the rec basketball and the rec volleyball. And then in the spring, I would do lacrosse in my town. And then in the summer months, I was traveling around at lacrosse camps and lacrosse tournaments, all in fucking lax bros. Okay, that's what we were doing.
She was a laxus.
Yeah. And then I ended up going to high school at this school called Immaculate Heart Academy for 1 year. And I chose the school actually because one of the lacrosse camps that I went to every summer was at IHA. And I loved the coach there so much. And she took a liking to me. All I wanted to do was play lacrosse at that high school. My entire life. I was when I was at those camps, I was I want to be kid of the week, I wanted all the older girls to like me, because all the older girls that were teaching the camp were girls that went to that high school. So I remember being a freshman, and I was oh my God, I can't wait till the spring when I can try out for the lacrosse team. But obviously lacrosse is a spring sport, and I had to figure out something to do in the fall months and the winter months. And so in the fall month, I started doing cross country for the first time. And it was funny because I never wanted to identify as like a cross country runner, because like it was just so different than what I was so used to, which is like contact sports and being on a sports team and like assisting girls and just playing team sports is just so fun. Field sports, it really, you can relate as a basketball player, right? Like field sports are so
Played
fun.
other sports too.
Yeah.
And not to talk about me, but my siblings are, one of them was a college triathlete. The other one was a college swimmer. Mm-hmm. And those were actually, as kids, swimming was like the sports our parents put us into. Mm-hmm. And I did that versus playing soccer and basketball. And I was like, oh my God, soccer and basketball are so much more fun. Yes. And it's because team sports, they're fun.
Yeah. So I went to high school, and when I was a freshman, I tried out I didn't try out because anybody could walk on to it. I did the cross country team, and I very quickly realized I was a good runner, which I knew because when I was younger,
running up and down that lacrosse field.
Yes. When I was younger, every single sport that I did, like I was that girl that they would call like wheels. Like I was very speedy, that was my thing. And guys, I lost that, but we'll get to that.
Her highlight tape is literally like her picking up the ball behind the goal.
Type in Kate Mackey lacrosse highlight on YouTube and you can go down a little wormhole.
After this episode. Yeah. No, right now we are locked in, but like her videos are literally her picking up the ball like behind her own goal, sprinting all the way to the other side, dodging 4 girls, and then nailing it top right corner. Right. And then next thing, same exact play, just running one side of the field all the way over to the other.
It was fun back then. So I think that's important context to note, because like even before cross country, I loved to run. And like I would, growing up, like go for runs with my mom. I remember her distinctly in her little tennis skirts, and we would do 5Ks around the town. And I really loved to run always, whether it was in a sport, on my own, or on a field. It just was something that I naturally gravitated towards and was always kind of known for. And so when I went to high school and I tried out for the cross country team and I started racing, I very quickly realized like, oh, this is something that not only am I taking a liking to, but I'm actually like decent at it. And I was actually at this school, I was on basically the way cross country works. I don't know if it works the same, but it's the top 7 girls are varsity. And I remember I was like only doing cross country to have my conditioning good for when I tried out for the lacrosse team. But very quickly I made the top 7 as a freshman. And I remember being like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Like, I definitely am taking a liking to this. And then winter track came around and same kind of thing. Like I was decent enough where I was, one of the top runners on the team. Then I go on to my lacrosse season, which is that spring, and I try out and I made varsity, and I was ecstatic. I was like the only girl out of all the freshmen that made the varsity team, and I was actually ended up being a starter. And that was like my fucking dream. Imagine that. Like all throughout my middle school years, I'm going to this camp, and then all of a sudden I make the varsity team and I'm a starter, and they were a really, really good team in the state. And it was in that freshman season, towards the end of it, that I had a like career changing injury. I jumped up to intercept a pass, and before I knew it, I landed and I tore my ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So I went from being varsity cross country, let's call it varsity winter track, varsity lacrosse,
and getting recruited to play like high Division I in college.
Mm-hmm. And at the time I was getting looks from college coaches for lacrosse, and like literally like night and day, like how do I snap?
Crap, I don't even know what's it. Pop right. Is the sound
within an instant. Like that was kind of over, honestly. Me at 12 was very different than me at 14, because me at 12 was like, I literally remember I have this letter that I wrote to myself in the 6th grade that was kind of like a letter that our teacher had us write to ourselves, and she mailed it to us when we were, I think, seniors in high school. And I have it in what I call my special box. And in that letter I wrote to myself, like, you're going to go on to be like a D1 lacrosse player. And like, I remember I had this goal of being on like Lacrosse magazine, like standing next to my brothers. Like, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I'm literally tearing up talking about this because, that was my dream. And then, so that's 12-year-old Kate, as you asked, focused on that. And then 14-year-old Kate is like, well, that's kind of over, because I just like knew, when like people come back from ACL surgeries, but as the story will go on, I did my recovery, did my rehab, very dedicated to wanting to come back and go be performing at the same level that I was. And during that year doing rehab, I was so emotional over it that I was like, I can't be the only person going through this right now. And through the rehab that I was doing and the physical therapy kind of after the surgery, I quickly realized there's so many kids my age and so many girls my age that tear their ACLs. So I started a blog, which doesn't exist anymore, but I do have some of the old videos that I can share.
She deleted it when I found it.
Yeah, it was so embarrassing for me.
Which I'm like, gosh, that's gold. We got to find it.
Yeah, but I made this like website or blog.
Someone listening will find the videos.
Somebody find them, please. I don't know how. Search the dark web. I don't know. But the website was called mytale.weebly.com.
It so perfectly translates to what you're doing now.
Yes, it does. So I started documenting my recovery, blogging it, and it was so cool because I literally started this online community during that year when I'm 14, 15 now, going into my sophomore year of high school. I started an online community where people would come up to me and be like, your blog documenting your ACL surgery made me feel so much better about going into this surgery. And it was just a really cool thing that I did when I was that age. And then anyways, I went back to lacrosse and I ended up re-tearing my ACL.
Which I can only imagine after a year of training.
And vlogging it.
And fun fact, during that year, you happen to be on the same like ACL recovery timeline as legend Mariano Rivera.
I did. And we got surgery at the same hospital, the Hospital for Special Surgery. Shout out to Dr. Cordasco and Dr. Green. They're literally the best of the best. And yes, I did do PT a couple times with Mariano Rivera.
But like, I think that's also fitting for, Kate didn't really make it a big deal. She was doing PT with Mariano Rivera. When I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that is epic. I can only imagine. I mean, I like the Yankees, especially like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Alex Rodriguez, like that era. And you were with Mariano pretty much at the end of his era, but he was still balling out. Like he was still extraordinarily relevant, but you didn't really make too much of it. It was cool. Like it was chill. And I think maybe that translates to kind of what you do for a living now, which is, interacting with a lot of people who, some might get starstruck by, but you really don't.
This whole thing that we do, like the running interview show, started so...
That's when it started, really. I mean, if you were going to find its roots, it was you documenting your journey.
It was me documenting my journey, learning how to video edit, really enjoying video editing. Like, there's nothing I love more than getting into an edit. Storytelling is at the heart of everything I do. And while I love, sharing my story with other people in the hopes that it can like inspire or help another young girl that maybe is currently going through what I went through 15 years ago, I love sharing other people's stories because it's like not all about me. And one of the big parts about my blog when I was younger was I had a forum where people could share their own stories and people started engaging with one another, and it became its community of its own that honestly, like, yeah, I posted videos to it, but it completely operated in its own way and people made friends from it. And it was a pretty wild thing. It was by no means like massive, but we had like a couple thousand people on there.
Pretty niche.
I
mean, that's the fact that there are a couple thousand like young girls who have torn their ACL at the same time is remarkable in itself. And
more than that, I mean, so many people tear it.
Fast forward though, so you did the recovery with Mariana, fun fact.
Okay.
And then
did the recovery, retore my ACL.
And what did that feel like? Walk me through like what happened there and like what went through your mind.
I remember it so crystal clear. Literally my ACL surgery and like going through that transformed me into a different person. Like, I swear to God, I jumped timelines because when the year mark came around and I was back to playing lacrosse, I had done my high school season. And to keep in mind, I actually transferred from IHA back to my public school. It was something my parents really wanted me to do. They wanted me to be closer to home. And it was in that summer season that I was back at like my first practice on my summer teams, which I played for Steps Lacrosse. If anybody knows of it, any of you listening are prior Steps players or current Steps players. That was my
I'm sure that's niche.
Very niche. They actually reshared one of my videos one time and I was like, but anyways, yeah, and I was back, and I remember I was playing defense, which is something that I loved. Like, I loved playing defense. I think that was like the one thing about me, like as a midfielder. Like, I loved scoring goals and like playing attack and assisting people, but I loved defense because I thought it was so fun. And that's where like you get kind of technical, because it's either like you have it or you don't when it comes to defense. Anyways, sidebar. But yeah, it was just laterally stepping, and
being a lacrosse coach might be in Kate's future.
Oh my God, I'd be such a good lacrosse coach, but I can't.
Yeah,
I have coached, whatever. I have taught out a lot of camps, even past. Moving on though, I remember the moment that I retoured. I was playing defense on a girl, and I laterally stepped, and instantly the graft retore, and I fell to the ground. And first, tearing my ACL was never painful. There was not one part of either tear that I remember or was painful. But I do remember in that moment tearing my ACL. My mom was actually at the practice in her car, and she like runs over, and I obviously like burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God, I know I just retore my ACL, which is kind of funny because even the year prior, my 14-year-old self had no fucking idea what an ACL was. And I was like, I think I just tore my ACL. So you just kind of know when it happens. And I remember saying to my mom in that car ride, like, we're going to go get the MRI, but if it comes back that like the graft is completely torn again, like I am not going to go through with surgery again. And I'm done playing lacrosse. Isn't that sad? Oh my God, he's crying. It's okay. You're going to make me cry. Oh my God, you're making me cry.
So you tore it that second time. At that point, it was evident one door had closed.
Yes.
Did another open?
Yes. Oh my God, yeah. I have something that can really make you cry, but I won't do it too.
Do it.
No, I actually won't.
Come on. I want to hear it. Come on.
Okay, so after I tore my ACL, my mom was like, I need to distract her. And as you know, I love stores with random shit.
Oh my gosh.
So literally
little
we were
trinkets.
like driving back from this steps lacrosse practice. And
with a torn ACL.
Yes. And my mom is like a tiger mom. So like while she was doing good stuff for me, she was also like telling me how it is. She was like, if you retore your ACL, which fucking pray you didn't, we're going to have to figure out what you're going to do, you know, because your grades aren't great. And lacrosse was all you were focused on. When you talk about a differentiator college application wise, I was already end of my sophomore year now in high school, going into my junior year. Like I was somebody that was on track to play D1 lacrosse. That's what my older brothers were doing. That's like what I thought I was going to do. So I literally had my mom saying to me, who's like so type A, so tiger mom.
Literally
she's like,
right after you tore your ACL.
Right after I tore my ACL, she's like, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, this is a disaster. So I'm like already feeling down bad. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it's over, whatever. So that was like a bad thing. And then moving forward, I remember she ends up taking me to a store on the way back that just like has a bunch of like random stuff, like anything from like your random Christmas ornaments to like the cute, I don't know, like just cute knickknacks and shit. Like I love that stuff. I can get lost in one of those stores. And I see this like plaque. It was like one of those quote plaques that you put kind of above your door or wherever you want. And it said, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. And she was like, you can buy one thing. Aw. And so I bought that.
Where'd you put it?
So I put it in my room, and I looked at it literally every day. And I was like, well, I loved video editing. Like I loved my blog. And there was always a side of me growing up that like, while my parents pushed athletics, like I was also like very artistic. And I did a lot of oil painting classes growing up, and I loved it. Like I loved painting still lifes, and I really liked like hand drawing. And so I was like, I know what I'm going to do. Like I'm going to lean into art. Like I'll start applying to schools. Cause I always thought kind of like after college, I would go into a job in advertising or something creative. But it was in this moment where I was no longer playing the sport and going to college for it that I was like, I can really figure out what I want to do in college, you know? Like I can really sit down and like get it good at an actual skill. And that's exactly what I did. I worked with this guy, Frank Riley, for my junior year and my senior year. And Frank Riley is this incredible artist. And together, he helped me, you know, put together my art portfolio. And he really like taught me how to watercolor paint and use charcoal. And it was really cool. And we put this vast portfolio together that had like all these different mediums. And I shotgunned every single school that had like a top art program. Like I applied to Parsons, Pratt, FIT, Syracuse's art school, Boston University's art school, RISD. And I ended up getting into every single school that I applied to.
Granted, and then you went to none of them.
And then I went to none of them, which is kind of weird.
There was some parental influence there.
Yes.
Or maybe safe to say, yeah, your parents didn't want you as a Parsons as much as they wanted you getting a marketing or, finance degree, something more in line with what they were familiar with.
Yeah, my parents ended up really pushing, like, you should go to school for business and marketing and go into advertising, and, in hindsight 2020, like, the schools that I was choosing between were Parsons for the visual arts program and ended up being Fordham. And I really wanted a school in New York City. I grew up 45 minutes away from the city. I loved going into the city. After tearing my ACL and going through all of that, one of the things that I also did when I was a junior and senior is I took a lot of weekend classes at FIT, which I loved so much. And I would literally, after the classes, just walk around the city all day. I remember my dad would give me like $20 and I would just go
get some dollar slice.
Yeah, exactly. I would just walk around. There was actually a place called Mexico that I loved going to.
Shout out Mexico.
Yeah. Anyways,
but you went to Fordham. You studied marketing.
Went to Fordham, studied marketing. Didn't have the best college experience.
You met me.
But yeah.
Not at Fordham, but while you were in college, while I was in college.
Oh my gosh. Whenever I see content creators, and I've interviewed a lot of content creators that have these incredible college experiences, even you had an awesome college experience. I really didn't have that. And I think it was because I was so fucking confused as a person. After my whole early life was kind of changed so suddenly in my teens. I feel like my late teens in high school and beginning of college, I was figuring myself out, I was figuring out okay, outside of a sport, who are my friends, who do I hang out with? Because growing up, I was always just friends with the girls on my sports teams. But by my sophomore year, I transferred to the city campus. So I went to Fordham Lincoln Center and I loved it. And I realized that the thing that I just had to do for myself was start getting internships. And that's exactly what I did. So I, worked multiple jobs when I was in college. I started out as a waitress when I was a freshman. And then by my sophomore year, I started working at a creative agency. Shout out Shonda. She was my mentor. And I owe everything to her in college. And then she helped me get my next job, which was at another creative agency. And I kind of agency bounced. And then when I graduated, I started working in advertising.
So you were working in advertising.
Yeah. And
I do think at a certain point, you were kind of you looked above and said, who are the people who I'm working for? Who are the people they're working for? Yes. Is this what it is?
Yeah. So I graduated a year early. I ended up paying for my last year of college. So I was let me expedite this shit.
When I met Kate, I think I met going into our senior year, and you were taking night classes, you were working during the day, you were taking a full 18-hour credit load at night, and you were I'm finishing early. That was the first thing you said. I'm geez, girl, you're doing a lot. Everything okay? You're I got to finish early.
I was let me just nail this job that I'm doing at these internships, build out my resume, and graduate early. And it all ended up working out. I graduated early and started working in advertising. One job ended up leading to the next, which was this company called Lippincott that I was so excited to work at. And for about 6 months of it, I was thriving. There was an older girl that had gone to Fordham that helped me get the interview. And I just thought the work they were doing was fascinating. I thought it was so cool. So many lovely people at the company. And then this new bitch came into town and she became my boss. And I don't know what it was about me, but she did not like me. And I knew it immediately. It's kind of like dating where you just know immediately whether you like them or don't. I feel like
it was not love at first sight.
It was not love at first sight. And she was the worst. I remember she picked on me. Everything I did was wrong. And I was I just know everything I'm doing isn't wrong. I have so much experience. I'm very creative. And at least I'm being proactive and at suggesting ideas and adding value in the way that I could. I knew I wasn't doing a bad job, I'm such a hard worker, but she just had it out for me.
Well, she probably didn't like that you were suggesting things and giving ideas. Yeah. Some people like that. They like the initiative. Some people don't. They go, hey, who are you to tell me what I did wasn't right? And I don't think you have like the patience, or you're direct. You're very direct. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there.
I mean, at the time, it's not that I was being super direct, right? Like, they were my bosses, and everything I did was like super polite and super nice. And I actually remember her saying to me in one of my reviews, like, you should work in social media. And maybe she was right. Like, maybe she saw something there. Anyway, she ended up firing me. Actually, during COVID, which was like the worst time to get fired. That's when you and I started like hanging out a lot, and I was scrambling for new work. And what was actually really lucky is at the time that I got fired, it was almost okay because I had a lot of other freelance gigs that I was doing.
Well, you had one big one.
Well, I had a couple. I was helping one of Jeremy's aunts run her social media business for her essential oil company. After doing the essential oil company for a while, I was like, this is so fun. Let me see if I can get a few new clients. So I was like, I should just go into some businesses around Brooklyn and New York and like see if they need any help with their social media. So I went into this one coffee shop called PQ Coffee Roasters. I think that's what it was called. And it was so cool. Like, the whole place was decked out. It was so aesthetic. It was very colorful. If you live in Williamsburg, I don't even know if it's still there. I think it is, because I think they expanded. They were expanding at the time. But I walked in and I was like, I just said, hey, I would love to help you guys with your social media. And very quickly they became one of my clients as well. And that was really cool. I was being so scrappy. I went in with like my dad's old camera, and I was taking pictures and editing the photos and taking videos. And yeah, it was kind of awesome. But it was just also showed that, while a lot of this stuff at the time was also online, sending resumes around, I also just walked right into the storefront and I said, hey, I need a job and I think I can help you.
And at the time, you had started posting social media around this time from your own account.
Yeah.
And it's not what you're doing today.
Yeah.
It was very much you like building your base.
Yes. Yeah. So I started, I like so many of you guys, like, I love social media. I think it's so fun. I was sharing, what I eat in the day and day in the life. And I was also training for the New York City Marathon, for the 2021 New York City Marathon. And I was like, let me document this. So I started documenting my
I remember the Squid Games. I think that was your first video that ever like went viral. Was like you're like 3, 2, 1, run fast for your done, fast for your done. It was electric.
Yeah.
And it was the start of the New York City Marathon.
Yeah, start of the New York City Marathon.
It was like your watch. It was your Apple Watch going like 3, 2, 1, and then like panning up in 50,000 runners.
Yeah, it was sick over the Verrazano Bridge. And yeah, that training for the New York City Marathon was what kicked off me experimenting on social media, because I started posting vlogs and I started, putting myself out there, putting myself on camera, and realizing, oh, I actually really like this, just like I liked it when I was in high school. It was almost like I lost myself and I had to come back to myself. It's, people talk about connecting with your inner child. Video editing and vlogging was something I loved when I was 14 and 15 and 16. And then I kind of lost touch with it because I was figuring out, what's next. And then I came back to it. So there you go.
How did you, like, what was the start for like what we know you for today, which is the running interview show? Yeah.
So, Jeremy and I had the idea to start a series online, and I really wanted to do a running interview show. It was something that I was kind of set on. And I just remember you and I back in our teeny tiny apartment in Greenwich Village brainstorming, what is it that we could do with running interviews that, would allow me to make money. Because keep in mind, like, even though I had gotten fired from Lip and Cut, I very quickly got another job
at Omnicom
at an advertising agency.
But yes. You did not feel super passionate. That one was like healthcare or something.
Yeah. I didn't love it. It just there was no growth.
Yeah. And I think
myself.
This may have been where Kate's like, all right, we need to find a way where like, yeah, I can make this side hustle money, like work with clients, but really need a way for social media to become like something that I can do full time. Because
I loved it. Like, and I knew that I could provide like a confident, strong voice for women.
And you did. You want to say, I want to do something that's like very positive and authentic to myself. And, I think Kate, another takeaway was also like we have some friends who were doing social media, had just started doing social media full time. Yes. And would make sure to like call them, or, I'll give a special shout out to Chris Chelani, our friend who passed away. But we had a weekend with Chris in North Carolina. Chris and I are both from North Carolina, where probably like 4 or 5 hours of the weekend were Chris, myself and yourself really just being like, how can we make this something that like works? Yeah. And Chris had recently created like a quote unquote like viral show, content series or viral show. So he explained like his process for coming up, with the, his ideas and, his iterations. And he was the guy who did like, hey, can I give you $1, double it, give it to the next person? He started out doing it in Washington Square Park. Within like 2 months, he had probably quit his job. And I think he had a brand deal that, gave him the confidence to really dive into it full time. But I would say Kate was vocal with like, all right, which of our friends like has done this? And, let's get our heads together and let's figure something out.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And Chris was the first one, I think, who ever did a run with you, right?
Yes, he was in my old format. And all you and Chris and everybody would say is like, you need to come up with a hook. Like you need to come up with a format that you can do over and over again. With each person's different, obviously, but let's come up with a format. And I literally remember the moment where we were getting into a cab in New York City because I was like forcing you to view an apartment with me. Which is a whole nother story.
That's its own podcast. We have a beautiful apartment with our cat nowadays.
Yes, I miss him so much. I remember the moment we were getting into a cab and I say to Jeremy, oh my God, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy everybody sneakers.
Yeah. And then
that runs with me as a prize. Like that'll be the prize. Kicked off the show literally the next day with our roommate Yordi. He ran 8 miles with me. He does not run. And the video did well enough for me to say, all right, let me do it again tomorrow.
You just knew like this was it.
This was
like,
it.
This is going to work.
I just knew. And I knew it was going to work because in the first month we got 80 million hits. That's insane. It was awesome. And the show started doing really well. And like social media is, there's highs and there's lows and there's highs and there's lows. And we definitely rode this really high wave for a while. Got a really great base of you guys, enjoying the guests.
People thought, made people feel good. It inspired people to run.
Good. Yeah.
Like all positive things.
And that's it. The show started and I never want to stop it. It's literally so fun for me. I get to run with people for a living. And keep in mind, like, I don't even think we really touched on this, but like after I tore my ACL in high school, just like backtracking a second, I leaned into running full force. Like running was and always will be like my happy place. It helped me like find my spark again, literally. And it's been the most consistent thing in my life for the longest time. Like you can't say I'm not consistent. I literally have run almost every single day since I was 14.
So you're running with people. You have your tripod, your selfie stick. You're documenting their journey.
Yes.
So for about, I don't know, like 8 months, would you say? It was just you doing that every day, editing the videos. And then at what point were you like...
Oh my God, it was such a grind. I was waking up every day before my 9 to 5 at like 6 a.m. Some days going for 2 runs in the morning. Some days, just doing 1. And then laying in bed, editing the video, posting the video by 10 a.m.
Or on the couch.
Or on the couch, wherever I was. And then I would go to work. And that was, that was my job.
And then at what point did you have the confidence? I remember you calling me and being like, I quit. Or
okay, so here's what happened.
They put you on a performance plan and...
Here's what happened. So, as you can imagine, this very quickly took over my entire focus and my life.
It went 0 to 100 real quick.
It went 0 to 100
like 12 million, 18 million views, 20 million views.
Yeah. And I started getting brand deals and people reaching out, and a lot of the stuff that happens on social media happens during normal working hours. So I was like, I can't possibly have a full-time job while I'm doing all of this, and there's so much opportunity in front of me, and like this is making me feel so good, and it was just so aligned with me. I just like knew it in my core. And that was it. Yeah, I ran with it literally. And within 1 month, I quit my job, and it was because I got so busy that my boss could tell. And I had recently gotten switched onto a new team. I was a senior account executive. So you have to be like managing a team of people and, be really engaged. And I just like, my heart just was not there. And I literally remember at the end of the first month of me starting my show, my boss calls me into a meeting with like HR and was like, we're going to put you on a performance plan. We're going to walk you through it. And they literally stopped him right there. And I go, everybody, I want to save you 30 minutes, please. Like, you do not need to walk me through a performance plan. Please, dear God. Like, I'm putting in my 2 weeks effective immediately, is what I said. We are back in New York. Thank you so much for listening to my conversation with Jeremy. We're now sitting down here with Jeremy, and we're going to talk about some key takeaways from our conversation and just some things that, you guys could potentially learn from it and implement into your own lives.
We're back in Brooklyn by way of Bali, Taiwan, Tokyo, Los Angeles, and now we're back here with our son, Jean-Pierre.
We first started in Joshua Tree. We were with Jeremy's family, and then we figured since we were already in California, we might as well head from California to Asia because it's an easier flight than flying from New York to Asia. So we flew from Joshua Tree to Bali. We were in Bali for a bit, and then we kind of got the bug to keep exploring other parts of Asia. So we went to Taiwan, and then we went to Japan, and we went to Tokyo and Kyoto. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Kyoto. We flew back from Japan to LA. The wildfires hit basically a couple days after we had gotten there, and we're kind of settling in. And anyways, now we're back in New York, unexpectedly, but we're here.
Yeah, and we were supposed to stay the entire month of January in Los Angeles. Yeah. So getting this into the themes of what you've talked about, like just life hitting you with unexpected things. I mean, it hits so many people with unexpected things. All these people who, the Palisades, Los Angeles, some of the most, successful people in not just media, but in the country. And they've worked so hard to build these lives for themselves and, have houses. And the Palisades are beautiful. It's like right next to Malibu. Mm-hmm. Insane place to live. But now their homes are gone and they've got to figure it out.
It's wild how your life can just change in an instant, like you can put so much planning and preparation into one thing, and then before you know it, those plans can be taken away from you or just change.
However, I think with you, while things have happened to you, you've maintained consistent, especially when it comes to movement. And no matter what you've gone through, whether it be injuries, whether it be job situations, to make yourself feel good and to push yourself back in the right direction, the first thing you've done is just get outside, get running.
There's so much research that shows how good like movement is for your mind and of course your body. And yeah, going for a run was always something that got my head on right. I definitely believe in the power of movement, and that's definitely something that I've always enjoyed doing. But like we talked about it earlier, I don't know if I really double clicked into it, but for me, it was like when lacrosse got taken away from me at such a young age. And then I spent most of my time, like my form of movement from that went really into running. It was like running gave me so much purpose, and really helped me like collect my thoughts and figure out who I wanted to become, because who I thought I wanted to become was no longer in the realm of possibility.
And I think the second thing there would be, like you just touched on, the importance of having purpose to having goals that you can drive towards.
Right. I think it's so important to set goals for yourself, but I think it's also important to like what I did, when I was younger like that. And this has happened so many times throughout my life. Like sometimes you need to figure out what makes you feel good and what's a positive habit to do that could eventually lead to figuring out what your goals are. You know what I mean? Like for me, it was like I retore my ACL for the second time. I felt helpless. I started running in my free time, started making me feel good. All of a sudden, I started taking care of myself more. My life started feeling more put together. And all of a sudden, I was able to figure out new goals for myself and new aspirations,
Ever since I've known Kate, since the first night I met her, she has always been very specific with, what she was driving towards at that time. The night I met her, she talked about how she was trying to graduate from school early and was taking night classes in addition to working an internship at a marketing agency during the day. When she had jobs that maybe weren't, either paying her what you needed, in addition to weren't providing you that purpose. You built like your own side hustle, your own, marketing consultancy when you got fired.
Yeah, a common theme of my life outside of movement and outside of being consistent is like get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's something that like my parents always kind of pushed onto us. And I would say like for my brothers, they in their youth had like a much more comfortable life. Like I was constantly thrown into like discomfort, but at the end of the day, it's like I grew so much from being so uncomfortable. Like I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for kind of like what I experienced and like grew through,
But you've always,
I didn't have this
no matter what,
life.
your goal has changed,
Yeah.
but you've always had a goal.
I've always had a goal. Yeah. Whether it was graduating early or, getting an internship in the city, I do think I always had a goal. And I'm somebody that's like such a hard worker. If you guys were to watch my old blog videos when I was like recovering from ACL surgeries, I was like such a hardo. Like I've always been such a hardo. And I think it's God. Like, it's one of my flaws a little bit.
She was like, okay, on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the school gets out at 3:30. From 3:30 to 4:30, I'm in PT. Then from 4:30 to 5:30, I'm icing. From 5:30 to 6, I'm preparing for dinner.
Yeah, that was me. But it was cute.
It was cute. I was kind of like, oh my goodness.
But it's cool seeing that stuff because like I feel like as we get older, we forget about these core things. Like I feel like now I'm 27 and I just now like, within the past 2 years have started to connect with my inner child in a way and the things that have always been a core part of me. I think, that conversation alone was really me with Jeremy reflecting on my life. If you're somebody that's like struggling with purpose right now, find one of your really good friends, unpack your life with them, walk them step through step, like what you were like at each age, starting at 12, like what we just did. And that might help you like figure out kind of what your purpose is.
And if y'all are part of the Run a Gang, you're probably already getting moving and the importance of getting moving, but you can always get moving more. And
that's
also
so true.
You can always find more purpose.
Every time I meet one of you guys, like whether it's at one of the group events that I've hosted or just out in public, like I'm always so impressed by you guys. Like you guys are such more impressed, like way more impressive people than I am. I'm always like, oh my God, this is so cool that we've fostered a community of such smart, active women.
And men.
There
are it's like 30% men at these events.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always guys there
too. Strong, smart men.
Mm-hmm. Social, like, I don't know. It's really cool.
So with that being said, how are we moving forward?
Well, I guess we're moving forward as closer friends because you guys just learned like my deepest, darkest secrets and everything about me, which was kind of scary, but it's okay because I'm comfortable with you guys. And second of all, I think like if there's anything that you can learn from my story that I will continue to ingrain in you guys, it's that the power of the pivot is so fucking real. If something happens in your life and you have to redirect, like see that as an opportunity. Like having to redirect your life is not a failure. It's an opportunity to succeed in a different way. It's like, I'm religious, so I would say it's God pushing you in a different direction for a reason. And then the second thing is the obvious, but Runner Gang, let's be consistent with our movement, get that mind right.
This year, what can we look for you? Like what are you working on?
Well, having the conversation with you in Joshua Tree definitely, like, as we kind of said, got me rethinking about my purpose and things that I want to focus on. And I think in 2025, one of the big things that I want to focus on is like, not comparing myself to other people, and I really want to be like living my true individual, like authentic self and like showing up as that person. Because I think anytime we try to be something that we're not, or, force a square into a circle, which I think happens a lot with social media when we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, I think that is when we fail. So I think like the biggest thing for me is like living my truth, showing up as Kate Mackz in every single way,
Changing your name maybe to Kate Worden.
Maybe changing
soon.
my name soon. My name will not change to you guys, but yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm working on. Like I'm one of those people, like I think you learned from our conversation we just had, like I'm constantly working on myself. Like I'm the last person that's going to say I'm perfect, while I try to be so optimistic and I do always see the glass half full, like that is something about me.
You're critical on yourself.
I am critical on myself and like I'm constantly challenging myself to be better, and that it's just living in this constant mode of be comfortably being uncomfortable. Like I think if I was too comfortable in life, I wouldn't be happy because I enjoy a challenge, you know, and I enjoy like getting better and like learning more and listening to other people, making more friends. Like, so anyways, that's one of the big things I'm working on, is like really showing up as myself, especially to all of you guys.
What
the
about the
second
shows?
is about the shows. Like, I just want to continue making great content, like continue to become an even better storyteller. I think one of the things that I learned about myself is that I love like storytelling, and I love sitting down with people, and I feel like I'm just at the forefront of doing what I'm meant to be doing. And who knows, maybe that's just me being crazy and too ambitious, but I really do believe that. My baby right now really is getting the running interview show into the long form format that we've been doing. If you guys are listening or watching this right now, I'd love for you guys to check out the Gabby Thomas video. That's, you know, one of the first that we've rolled out in our long form, but I'm so excited to be taking the running interview show long form this year.
Taking it to YouTube.
I am so excited because you guys don't realize, like, I have such long conversations with every single person that I run with. And because of the nature of short form content, I have to cut so much of that conversation out. And the conversations are gold. Like, the conversations you have on the run with people, like, people are so vulnerable. They open up so much. They say things that they probably wouldn't in just a traditional sit down podcast. And it's not like I'm getting tea on anybody. That's like not what I'm trying to say. But it's like people really open up and get comfortable with you. And I feel like I get to see people's true authentic self in a way that a traditional interview doesn't get to see.
Tying that in, so you talk short form, so short form, long form, and it's like we talk about short form brain versus long form brain, and the way you need to think and the way you need to produce content for a 15 or 10 minute plus video or for a podcast is totally different.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on
that?
Well, just short form in general, like TikTok? Like, you're obviously it's been huge for you.
Yeah, I mean, the past few weeks have been crazy, and I have no idea what's going to happen, guys. Like, it was hard for me because TikTok is like what brought me guys you and like helped me connect with you guys, and TikTok helped me find my voice. Like, TikTok helped me define my purpose in a lot of ways. So when I found out that, and now knowing that we could potentially lose that, was definitely like a really emotional experience. Like, we bootstrapped this business on TikTok. And of course, I'm so blessed that we've been able to translate it onto different platforms like Instagram and YouTube, and that we've grown such a loyal audience and, you know, group of you guys, and we've got this runner gang. But yeah, I was really sad when I found out about the TikTok news. It was a bummer. But I do have to say, like, again, glass half full girl. I'm like, when one problem happens, I'm literally already on to the solution and like working hard at something else. And
we're all in on YouTube.
We're all in on YouTube. We are all in on YouTube. And this is the year that we're going to make YouTube our primary platform. And in terms of short form brain versus long form brain, I really love long form brain. Like, I think it's just healthier for our minds to be thinking in long form brain. Like, for a while, it was very hard for me to have like sit down conversations like this. And I think that was because I was filming so much content thinking short form first, you know? But long form's just giving me the opportunity to show those longer conversations that we already have on the run. So anyways, I just want to show you guys more. And I hope you're just as excited as me about it, because I think we're going to have some really fun runs in the future and post-run conversations.
And post-run high.
And I did go for a run today. It snowed in New York and it's freezing outside. So I ran 3 miles on the treadmill. It was fine. I got through it. So take this as your sign to move your body today. And thank you guys so much for listening. I know this was a ramble, and I hope you guys enjoyed learning about me. I promise we will do more deep dive episodes like this in the future. I am an open book. So seriously, if you guys have any questions about me or anything that you want me to talk about, whether it's like my business or dive even deeper into my college internship experience, I know I've gotten a lot of DMs about that as well. Like, there's so many things that we talked about today that I know I could double click into for you guys. So please let me know. My inbox on Instagram is an open forum, and the comment section on YouTube, please comment, let us know there. Make sure you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Mackz. I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching.
See you later, Runner Gang.
Bye.